Hi everybody, I'm Angelika Simpson from Stardust Express. I'm so happy and excited to be hosting this regular show on Tuesday evenings, where I will be sharing my knowledge and interest in alternative medicine, archaeology, my interest in where we as a species come from, for how long we might have been on this planet, and what is our real history. I'll be inviting some of the most inspiring people in my life. I will be sharing with you weird and wonderful information about our origin, about star constellations that influence us, to open your mind and your perception of our world. I intend to give you information that is not easy to get elsewhere, looking again at the things going on around us. A lot of interesting mix that will open your mind. My show is about truth issues, mysteries, new physics, consciousness, metaphysics, health, spirituality, science, music, sacred sites, psychology. Hello everybody, this is Angelika Simpson from Stardust Express. I have two interesting videos for you tonight, and I will continue to do my natural vision improvement work with you afterwards. My first video is from ZTG TV, hidden from the public, and it is called Out of Place Artifacts and Objects that Do Not Belong in Our Reality. I found this video enormously fascinating, and I hope you enjoy it. Have fun with it.
So to begin with, we want to take a look at the timeline. Most of us in school were taught that basically, humans came from monkeys and apes. That's the Darwinian theory. And that slowly over time, we've progressed and so forth from, Australopithecus, Homo habilis, Homo erectus, Neanderthal, then of course Cro-Magnon man is someplace in here. Cro-Magnon is actually here, and then there's Homo sapiens. Now, and then there became Homo sapiens sapiens, probably, we believe, about 40,000 years ago. So this is what we've been taught. But of course, for many years, we've been looking, for decades, in fact, for the missing link. How do we move from the monkey and the monkey man to the full-grown man? How did this actually occur? And there are many species that are being discovered. Now, traditional anthropology tells us that Homo sapiens have existed around 200,000 years, and that Homo sapiens sapiens only for about 40,000. In other words, maybe this was Homo sapien and this is Homo sapiens sapien, which would be us today. That's pretty much what we look like. As we know, there are two basic theories about how we got here. One is called creationism, and one is called evolution. And this is such a great image because here we have the whole idea of creation, that God created man and that God shaped man, and that's how we got down here, and we were kind of perfect from the beginning because that's how God made us. And in that story, which is related in Genesis, some versions say the man and woman were created together. Others say the man was created and then put to sleep, and a rib was taken, and Eve was created from the rib. So that's creationism story. And of course, Darwinianism came up only in the last couple of hundred years, and it was actually disputed for quite a while, but eventually it was adopted by mainstream society. In creationism, people who are, let us say, fundamentalist Christians, very traditional, They actually think that the generations of the Bible only take us back about 6,000 or 7,000 years ago. So in other words, they actually believe the best that they've been able to figure it out, figuring that every generation is about, starts again every 20 years, that basically that's how old humankind is, despite the fact that there's an enormous amount of information that has been gathered in the last 200 years showing that there has been Homo sapien on this planet for 100, 200,000 years, or perhaps even longer, as we will see. Now, evolution believes that we started from, chimpanzees or some sort of primate, and that poof, here we are, just add water, and how we became human over a period of time. Now, one of the things that's interesting about that is in what they have been able to connect with the fossil record is that every one of these groups seems like they take about 500 million years. That's a big jump to go from one to the other, except for Homo sapiens. Homo sapien comes up very quickly, as we're going to see. So we're still asking a lot of questions about this. Unfortunately, it hasn't been treated as a closed case. Why are our brains so big? Our brains are much bigger than primates, and they're much bigger than almost any other animals on the planet except dolphins. Dolphins have about 1,650 grams to their brain. We have about 1,350 grams. But gorillas, for example, they have about 800 grams, and it takes about 1,000 grams to master spoken language. So who was the first human? Very good question. Was it really Adam in the Garden of Eden, or were there earlier humans? Why do we walk upright? That's really the way that we're not slumped over our computers. We should be walking is with a very upright posture instead of down on all fours, and other great mysteries. So science continues to push this edge as they find one group of bones after another, and thank goodness that they do. And I love that they continue to push it. This, for example, this is a skeleton that they found that was 1.9 million to 3 million years ago. And so you can see the ridges on the forehead and so forth. So it's but not too unlike us. Now, most of us have heard of Lucy. If you remember, Lucy's supposed to be the common ancestor of every human. She's the genetic mother. And there was that wonderful movie that Hollywood came out with a couple of years ago. I love that they called it Lucy. And it was about a woman that used 100% of her brain and became completely self-realized and God-realized. And they even had it where she kind of traveled in her consciousness through time. And she went back to the early primates, and she did the whole thing of touching the finger to start evolution forward. So I loved that whoever wrote that movie did it, but it was great. But Lucy is believed to have been 3.3 million years old. That's just unbelievable. And we can see that even when there was a less sophisticated species here, that there was love, there was affection, very much as we have for our children today. So the Lucy specimen was discovered in 1974, is composed of hundreds of different bone fragments, comprising 40% of an early Australopithecine. It's now dated to about 3.2 million years ago, and is thought to be the common ancestor of all humans. The skeleton presents a small skull akin to that of a non-hominid apes, plus evidence of a walking gait that was bipedal and upright akin to that of humans. Now, what's interesting is recently they have now said that we believe we have a male ancestor that's the male of behind everyone, all the humans, and he's dated to about between 200 and 300,000 years ago. So this article is really talking about the new genetic evidence that all men are descended from this common ancestor who they believe actually lived about 270,000 years ago. So, of course, who would that male have been? Is it possible that this has to do with the extraterrestrials, that there was genetic intervention, and what they're finding is a gene that traces back to that particular individual? Now, in current anthropology, there are many different roots. There's the orangutan and the gorilla and the chimpanzees and so forth. This, however, is our genetic tree. Very interesting. So anthropology currently believes, of course they could change this opinion, it is a moving science, that humans emerged from only one branch of the primate kingdom. Now, so the question would be, why only one branch? I mean, if evolution is moving forward for everybody, why did only one group sort of get that upgrade to their DNA? So it suggests that there was some kind of outside manipulation. In other words, a human species came down, they decided that they were going to help one group up that seemed to be more compatible with their own DNA, and that separated us out from the other chimpanzees or the other primates. So as I said, what is so interesting, if you look at this, is this particular ancestor is about 5 million to 6.4 million years ago. Here's Australopithecus at 4.2 million. Actually, here's Australopithecus is the next one. This is Australopithecine. And this is Homo habilis at 2.3 million. Here's Homo erectus, and he's at 1.8 to 1.3 million. Here's Homo sapiens, that they're calling Neanderthals as our ancestor, at 0.6 million to 30,000 years ago. And then Homo sapiens, they're putting it around 35 to 40,000 years ago. And they're actually throwing Cro-Magnon in with us. And there probably are some Cro-Magnon-looking humans still on the planet. Certainly there's some that act like Cro-Magnons. But, you know, we'd like to think we're all evolved Homo sapiens. So this is an interesting discovery that suddenly from Cro-Magnon we moved to Homo sapien without that 500 million year jump. So how did that happen? In fact, it appears that Homo sapiens came up out of nowhere, and within about 100 to 200 years, a lot of the Neanderthal were extinct. So this supports this whole idea that there were ETs, or the Anunnaki gods. Most of us are familiar with this theory. This is the work of Zecharia Sitchin, the brilliant Jewish scholar who was one of about 10,000 people that could translate the Sumerian cuneiform text. And Zecharia knew him. He was a colleague of mine on the circuit, and a brilliant man, just an incredible writer and amazing researcher. And he wrote a whole 10-book series called the Earth Chronicles, where he took a serious look at the translations from the Sumerian cuneiform text from a city called Nineveh. And thank goodness that he did, because he was able to think outside the box. And of course, we have evolved enough in our own science now to where things that even 100, 200, 300 years ago, our ancestors would have no idea what they were referring to in the text. We now have, guided missiles and airplanes and astronauts and helmets and space travel and telegraph and telephone and computers. And these are all things it seems that the ETs had something very similar to or aligned with. So we can now begin to understand some of the things about these texts that would have remained completely blind for us before. So the question is this really what happened? Did the Anunnaki come down and they jumped Stardust? Are they the only group, or are they only one of many groups that have been involved with the seeding of this planet? And the time that they were here, the only time that ETs have come here, or have there been other groups earlier times, middle times, and at the same time as the Anunnaki? Is our civilization the only advanced civilization that has ever been on this planet? And I think I'm going to let you answer that for yourself, but I'm going to present some evidence tonight that would certainly make us think that we are not the most advanced civilization or the only one that's ever been here. So before we go into some of that evidence, I do want to show you a few things that tell us that a lot more has happened on this planet than we're aware of. You know, when we think about Lord of the Rings and Tolkien's amazing trilogy with elves and with hobbits and with dwarves and with those orcs, those terrible orcs that they were fighting. Who knows if orcs are real? But certainly I think that hobbits were real. We know dwarfs are real because we have dwarfs today, and giants were real. And more than likely the elves were real as well. because why in the world would those legends be so strong within so many cultures for so long? So this is actually from Scientific American, and it's really about the discovery of a species that really was around until just about 3,000 years ago. And they were perfectly proportioned. They were not dwarfs. And so they were like hobbits, and they had big feet, just like the hobbits. Very interesting. Maybe he was channeling something. Look at this one. When we start talking about giants, as many of you know, I have a whole presentation I've done on giants and fairies, and if you haven't seen it, you should probably go to Portal of Ascension and tune in. It's archived there, and it's totally fabulous, where you actually are seeing pixies and elves and fairies and a lot of other things that have all been in mythology, but that actually do exist today. So this is a 21-foot-long giant that was found in Greece and is one of many, many. And in that presentation, I show you probably at least 30 or more skeletons, and it's just quite phenomenal. It's quite a presentation. So I'm just showing you a couple here because we have, well, I want you to really get the evidence under your belt, but we have a lot to talk about in this presentation. This is a femur bone, and what's amazing, this was found in southeast Turkey in the late 1950s. And so if we put it in proportion to the person that had that femur bone, that person would stand between 14 and 16 feet tall. Their feet would have been nearly 2 feet long, about 22 inches is what they figure. So, you know, the tallest humans, most of us, only get to be about 6 or 7 feet. And of course, most of us girls are in the 5-footers. But let's say our tallest guys are generally 7 feet. This is a being that would be well over double the height of the tallest man that we have around. So this would probably be a pretty intimidating individual to run into. We can start seeing some of these size proportions here, where these squatting men, you know, probably if we made this man stretch out, he would be about the length of this femur bone, okay? So, you know, this is a pretty, maybe be a little bigger than the femur bone, but, yeah, that's another probably 14, 15-footer. So the human race definitely is evolving, and human evolution is not over. So it's a process. If just come in and sit down, we're in the middle. So we're now going to begin to talk about strange artifacts and odd anomalies and some of the evidence that we have that, in fact, there have been advanced civilizations here in the past. So let's take a look at some of these amazing artifacts. This is a metallic tube found in France in 65-million-year-old chalk bed. So what in the heck is a metallic tube that would be formed by some kind of a machine doing in 65-million-year-old chalk bed? Who made it? How did it get there? Was there an advanced civilization and this is one of the remnants of it? Or were ETs around and just throwing their trash out? Who knows? This is a coin. It's an imprint of a coin. It appears to be a big giant with a little human here. And this was found in Illinois. It was a well boring near Lawn Ridge, Illinois. It was reportedly found at a depth of about 114 feet below the surface. And according to the information supplied by the Illinois State Geological Survey, the deposits containing this coin are between 200,000 and 400,000 years old. Now, we've just looked at what anthropology says about the fact that Homo sapiens only came up around 200,000 years ago. So if this is 200,000 years, did they suddenly, you know, poof, start just making coins, metallurgy? If it's 400,000 years, who was down here that would have left a coin? And we could say, okay, it's only ETs, giant ETs, but this giant ET appears to have a little human or smaller individual that he's grasping. And so that makes you stop and think what was going on to even create that kind of coin. This is a human shoe print. It's found in 505-million-year-old Cambrian shale in Utah. And kind of looks like the astronaut was wearing a Buster Brown, if you ask me. It's a very simple shoe print, just like we would see today. And here you can see it with the edge. And here it comes up. And they've outlined it for us here just so that we could not miss it. Very interesting. So 505 million years old, how is that possible? This one is amazing. This is found in South Africa. There's a whole series of these metallic balls, and they're not that big, but they definitely are machine grooved. So they have these incredible grooves around the circumference of them. But the most amazing thing about them is that they were found in South Africa in Precambrian mineral deposits said to be 2.8 billion years old. So who machined them? That's the question. So this is really interesting. Here's another picture of some of these balls. They only measure about an inch or so in diameter, and they're etched with 3 parallel grooves around the equator. 2 types of spheres have been found, one composed of a solid bluish metal with flecks of white, and the other hollowed out and filled with a spongy white substance. The rock in which they're found is dated to 2.8 billion, so who made them and for what purpose, we have no clue. Now this is an interesting one. This is a 3-prong plug, just like we use today, where we have the male and female and the ground in the middle. And this rock formed around this 3-prong plug. So it was found in 1998 by a hiker named John Williams. Maybe he was the composer, who knows. It has a 3-prong electrical plug sticking out of it. Geologists say it's about 100,000 years old and that the rock actually formed around the plug. So who in the world had a 3-point plug 100,000 years ago so that the sediment could form around it? We do not know, but clearly this is a sign of some kind of sophisticated technology. Look at these screws. These similar thing, here are screws, and this rock formed around the screws. Rocks take a long time to form. So this was found in the Meizhong Mountains of China by a rock collector. And they don't know what the date is, but they've got to be thousands of years old. So who had the screws? Where did the screws come from? That's the question. Here we have a gold spiral metal that was found in Denmark from the Bronze Age, dating around 3,000 years ago, perfect for electrical conducting. Where was the electricity coming from? What do you mean electrical conducting? We didn't have electricity back there. Who would have even known to create this? These are all very good questions. This is interesting. This is 300 million year old machine part. It was discovered in Russia. This aluminum object is called the tooth wheel. It was embedded in a piece of coal. Well, what kind of machine was it a part of? Who made it? Where did it come from? Humans didn't learn how to make aluminum this pure until 1825. So once again, this is clearly some kind of a machine part, like a little cog. This one's really extraordinary. This is 400 million year old machine parts found in the remote peninsula area of Russia, 150 miles from Tagil. Discovered by campers, archaeologists at the University of St. Petersburg have confirmed its authenticity. According to archaeologist Yuri Golbev, the find shocked scientists because it is a machine. So this is some kind of machine. You can see literally the grooves. It's almost like, what we think of clock wheels, okay? 400 million years old. So, gosh, I have no idea about that one. So this is the area, just to give you a picture of the area it was discovered in. So we know China, Russia, so obviously this area was up, and it could be that this is part of a Lemurian civilization, or much, much further back even than Lemuria. Now, most of us have heard of the Baghdad Battery, and it's called that because it was found by a German archaeologist in 1938 while excavating a 2,000-year-old village near Baghdad. And there have been other Baghdad batteries found, but this is the most complete one. And it's got an iron head, you can see that, an asphalt seal, it's in clay, and inside there's a copper cylinder and that wraps around this iron head. And you kind of see the size here. So it was discovered in a Parthian village, believed to date back to around 248 BC. It consists of 5.5-inch high clay vessel, inside of which was a copper cylinder held in place by asphalt. Inside of that was an oxidized iron rod, making it electrical battery. So the device needs to be filled with acid or alkaline liquid to produce the electrical charge, and it's believed it could have been used for electroplating objects with gold. But the question is, who created it, and how come, batteries weren't made for 1,800 years? So somebody taught them this technology. And there are these lights that we've heard of that have been found in some of the temples that are thought of as eternally burning lights, that somehow, thousands of years later, they discover them and they're still burning. So clearly someone had a technology even we don't know of today. Most of us have heard of the Dropa stones. I certainly had heard of them, but I didn't know what they were until I began to investigate. And they're very much involved with the crash of some ETs on our planet. So let's take a look at that story. First, what are they? They're a collection of 716 grooved metal discs. They're 9 inches in diameter and 3/4 inch thick. And so this is the story behind it, and it's totally fascinating. In 1938, there was an archaeological expedition led in China, and I'm not even going to try to say Dr. Chi Pu Tei's name correctly or the name of the mountains. These are a little challenging for me. He made an astonishing discovery in some caves that had apparently been occupied by some kind of an ancient culture. Buried in the dust of ages on the cave floor were hundreds of discs measuring about 9 inches in diameter. Each disc had a circle cut into the center and was etched with a spiral groove, making it look for all the world like some ancient phonograph record, some 10,000 to 12,000 years old. The disc contained high levels of cobalt and other metallic high-frequency sound waves. They stood 3 to 4. Remains of bodies like this were found in the caves that had been squared off with glazed walls as if created through using extreme heat, like lasers. There were also drawings in the cave showing the sun, the moon, and a set of stars all joined together by dots. So let's take a look at those dropas again. So here they are. Pretty amazing. This definitely looks machine-made, doesn't it? Like something we would see today. And this is some kind of hieroglyphic writing, I guess, around the edges. So very, very fascinating. What's interesting in doing the research on this, I found that there actually are people that claim to be descendants that finally bred with these people, and they still have yellow skin and blue eyes. Very interesting, and they're in China. Okay, Egypt in America. How strange. These have been found, all these Egyptian artifacts, and I have actually seen some of these and handled them myself. These are symbols that have to do with Thoth, the ibis symbol, the zoomorphic figure for Thoth, the god of wisdom in ancient Egypt. And they've been found in Arkansas, in Ohio, in Illinois, in Arizona, and in Idaho. I suspect they have also been found in other places, as I'm going to be showing you some extraordinary things around the area of Sedona, Arizona, and the Grand Canyon area. So let's take a quicker look at this, or a little clearer look at it. This appeared in Ancient America, and I take a lot of unusual magazines because I'm very interested in the evidence, the historical evidence behind the whole ET exploration. Here is this coin, and this is the gateway of knowledge. This has to do with the mysteries. This looks like it's either a heron, which could be the new bird, okay, which was a symbol of resurrection and regeneration. It's a symbol connected with Osiris. Of course, we have the symbol for eternal life here, the Ankh, and I don't know what these symbols mean, but very interesting. But what are Egyptian coins and artifacts doing in America? That's a very good question. What are they? I have no idea. Okay. These are very strange. These are gigantic spheres, huge spheres. They're called the bolas by the locals, and they're found in Costa Rica. And they're all over the place. I mean, they're in the roads, they're in the fields, they're in the grass, they're in the jungles, they're in the swamps. So they were first discovered in the 1930s by a United Fruit Company when they were clearing the jungles for banana plantations. There's some 390 spheres scattered all over this river delta as far away as Panama, but particularly around Palmar Sur and the Canos Islands. These spheres range in size from 3 to 8 feet in diameter. 8 feet! That's taller than a man, and they weigh as much as 16 tons. They're 95 to 100% geometrically perfect, which we couldn't make that. Human hands are only a machine, or maybe nature. Remember that first Indiana Jones movie when that giant ball came rolling down? It's like one of those kinds of things. Those spheres are like that. So this is a guy or a woman trying to kind of support one. They weigh up to 16 tons and 8 feet wide, and that gives you some sense. And this one looks like it's only maybe about 5 feet wide. This is interesting. This is the president of Costa Rica standing next to a sphere. So I love that the president would pose with, a space artifact. So this is the largest one. It weighs 31 pounds or 31 tons or 62,000 pounds. Absolutely astonishing, wouldn't you say? So similar balls have been found in New Zealand and Bosnia composed of granite. And this is just like amazing. So it's not just Costa Rica. Costa Rica would definitely have been probably the western edge of Atlantis with Cuba and that whole area. But what in the world they're doing in New Zealand and Bosnia, I have no clue at all. And look at this. Now, originally, these spheres had kind of like a metallic coating on them. You can see that in this picture more than most of them. Most of them, they look just like stone. But you can see the coating very clearly here. And this one, see how this one shines? And this is they're just laying out in the swamp. Who knows what they are? So who made them, and what do we know about them? Chemistry tests performed on the stone balls concluded that the stone material had been melted with additional chemicals added and then probably poured into a mold that formed it into perfect spheres. So granite, and they're made mostly of granite, doesn't melt until 2,300 degrees Fahrenheit. So that is incredible. Our Western civilization did not even develop that kind of technology until the late 1800s. Iron cauldrons heated by wood fires would never do that. So this is how traditional historians, that's what they tell us. Oh, they must have made them in a cauldron or something. But that's impossible. We didn't have the technology to be able to create them. So who made them? Moving on now, we go to these famous gold airplanes, and there have been, I think, over 300 of them that have been found in Bogota, Colombia. Now, what the anthropologists say is they're bees. I don't think that really looks like a bee to me. It really looks like, these are the wings, here's the tail, and here are the rudders on the side, okay? And there's even a little space for like a little space pilot in there. So extremely interesting. Now, these Incan artifacts really look to me a lot like our little fighter planes. Stabilizing tails, landing gears, and so what's interesting is modern day engineers have actually made model planes that look just like them, the same proportions, the same design, and they fitted them with propellers and engines, and they flew. So that's pretty interesting. Aerodynamically very, very sound. And most of us have seen this extraordinary thing. I've actually taken a group to Egypt before and been to this temple. It's the Temple of Dendera, which is Hathor's temple. Now, this is in the higher registers, and the registers, almost always the higher ones, were about the gods, or they were about the future. So here we have what appears to be a helicopter, what appears to be something like a submarine, a plane, like a little speeder, like, Luke Skywalker's, speeder. And we can see other things that tell us that it has to do with the gods. The symbol of the bee, this was the symbol of the gods. And we can see down here the bee, okay? This is all connected with the gods, the pharaoh and the gods. They were the beekeepers. They were the preservers of knowledge. They were the preservers of the great spiritual mysteries. So somehow someone saw these kinds of craft, and they were authorized to be able to create stone stelas. It's not like you could go in and do spray paint graffiti to do this. And, this was something that was authorized and formally accepted by the pharaoh and the powers that be as things that needed to be memorialized in that temple. And that temple is Hathor's temple. It was connected with light and sound and also the revolution of the heavens, and the gods were very much connected with that particular temple. Here we have spacemen found in Mayan lands. This definitely looks like an astronaut to me, and you can see the History Channel has come a long way. They have really been doing Ancient Aliens for the last few years, and bravo, I take my hat off to them for their courageous support of the having a conversation about this. And here are other examples of what appear to be astronauts, carrying something on his back. You can see the chest plate here. And then here's like some kind of device. Maybe it's a light shining as he walks with this sort of girdle around his chest. And you can see the pants, very much like our own astronauts kind of pants, everything in segments. Here's spaceman capsule. So this is actually what this looks like. Here's the little jets at the back, okay? Here's the little nose of the capsule, and here's where the little astronaut sits. And we can see him sitting right here. And he looks like he has a little flight suit on that's kind of expandable, doesn't he? Almost like an accordion style. Now this is interesting. This is a 14-inch fossilized man that was found sitting in a yoga position in a cave in the southwestern United States. So I believe he probably landed his ship in the 1800s, took one look around at the cowboys and said, I'm out of here, and went into a cave and decided he was just going to end his life peacefully. He obviously has a very small body and he has very large eyes, and look at the width of his mouth. So he's not the normal looking human being. Where did he come from? That's our question. Now these are artifacts that have just recently been released from Mexico. They've had them for about 80 years, and they found them in a pyramid. It's called the Calakmul Pyramid of Mexico. And the police had them. The government had them, and they just released them. So this is extremely exciting. This is obviously some kind of spaceship, and it's either a beam coming down or steps coming down or something descending from the craft. Look at this one. Here we have the planet Earth. We have a space capsule of some sort. Here's another one, looks like, and here's another one. And here we see our little astronaut inside of them. Pretty extraordinary. So here's the pyramid. And there were many, many artifacts that were found there. And I'm going to show you a few. We see this one with enormously large almond-shaped eyes, but the head isn't quite like a gray, but obviously they have really big eyes. This pyramid was a pyramid inside of another pyramid. So we see the cutaway here of what it looked like. And here's the actual picture of it. So they were retrieved from this unexplored pyramid that was found under another pyramid, decided the most powerful of the ancient Mayan cities. The pyramid had rooms within it that had never been explored before. And we see more of these artifacts here. Again, looking for all the world like a space capsule, and definitely some kind of strange beings with big old almond-shaped eyes. And maybe cone heads. And here's another one. Here's more. This is clearly a UFO with some kind of a tractor beam. And this guy looks like he's got a strange head. It's not a kind of a human-looking head, more like a, I don't know what it is. Could be not an alligator head, not a moose head, but definitely like almost like a Set creature. You know, the zoomorphic figure for Set. We don't know what that animal is because it was obviously exterminated by the flood or something. And then here's another one, raising his hand with some kind of a stick or a device or wand here, rod. This one also, some kind of a, it's hard to see what he's got actually in his hands. Okay, so here's our next one. Now, no one knows if this is real or not. Those others are definitely real. These could be real too, though, because there are 30,000. And someone would really have to be an obsessive compulsive to have created 30,000 little clay figures and left them for somebody to find. This is in 1944, a German shopkeeper named Valimar Jusrud, it's hard to say these names, Jules Rudd, claims to have stumbled upon some mysterious figurines while on horseback near the Acambaro. Is that how you guys would say that? Acambado. We have someone who has a great accent in the audience. Acambado area in Mexico. He says that he found over 30,000 of them with the help of a farmer. He collected them and brought them back. These strange figures are resembling flying saucers, aliens, and human beings. Now, this one is one of the ones I find to be most interesting because it is a man riding what looks like a triceratops. And those were herbivores. They were not carnivorous, if we remember our Jurassic Park. So what it's showing is humans and dinosaurs living together. So what we know about that, or what we think we know about that, is that dinosaurs were around 220 million to 65 million years ago during the Mesozoic era. Homo sapiens did not appear in the traditional anthropological record until about 200,000 years. Or that's what we believe, which is a totally different age. It's the middle Pleistocene. Isn't that how you say that? Mm-hmm. So during the middle Paleolithic age or the middle Stone Age in Africa. There is, however, evidence that dinosaurs and humans may have coexisted for a time. If these objects are real, then these figures would be an example of this phenomenon. Now, so let's look at some evidence that may in fact have some truth to it. These are human footprints embedded in rock in Dinosaur National Park in Texas. So you can see these people are pointing, and of course it looks, we can't see all this too very clearly, but these are human footprints in rock at the time of the dinosaurs, and there are dinosaur bones all over the place in this place. That's why it's called Dinosaur National Park. Same kind of thing here. So they're saying, well, maybe they were running from the dinosaurs, but clearly they were some kind of human. This wasn't a primate foot like a monkey or a gorilla or orangutan. It was a human foot. And we see a little better here. Dinosaurs were supposed to have gone extinct 65 million years ago before mankind even existed. So who or what humans were on the planet? We don't know. I mean, did they come from outer space? Did they time travel back there and they got eaten by the dinosaur? We don't know. This is an even greater mystery. This is a giant footprint in rock in Lakkashi, India. And this is a holy site because of this. This is a gigantic foot. Okay, so this would have been a foot of the gods. And so there's a whole shrine, a whole temple that's grown up around this. Look at this one. These are giant tracks embedded in stone at a temple in Syria. Again, you can kind of see the weight of the individual, and they had to have stepped here at a time when this was moist enough, it's stone, to have embedded the footprint. And you see the difference in, if this is 12 inches, this is going to be 12, 24, 36, 40, maybe 40 inches. That's a very big person. Here we have another one, giant footprint in rock in China. Here's more of a human size, kind of like our foot today. And here's this one. So 12 inches, maybe 24. This is maybe 30 inches, something like that. A large individual. That would probably be about a 19 or 20 footer. Love this one. Goliath's footprint. A giant 4-foot-long footprint found in South Africa, close to the Swahili land border, is estimated to be between 200 million and 300 billion years old. Goodness gracious. I mean, our planet is what now? We think it's 4.5 billion years old. We used to think it was 3.5. I think we think it's 4.5 billion now. So that means that somebody was here. Somebody was visiting, maybe checking it out. This is my favorite one. This is said, they say this is Lord Hanuman's foot. And of course he was a monkey god that I'll introduce you to a little later in this presentation. This is a colossal footprint. It's worshipped in Thailand. And you can see people have laid flowers all around it. extraordinary, isn't it? Where did it come from? I mean, I would say this being had to probably be 50 foot tall, wouldn't you?
Mm-hmm.
That's a large being. Incredible. This is another strange anomaly. This appears to be a UFO that has crashed in the ocean and become fossilized over time. This is clearly not a rock. I mean, it's a ship, but it's now become a rock. This is a closer picture of it. Incredible. A little glimpse of where we're going to wind up with Antarctica. This is one of 3 motherships that have been discovered in the last few years, in the last 4 or 5 years in Antarctica. But we're going to return to this part of the subject in the last third of this presentation.
So welcome back. Hasn't that been an interesting video? Fascinating. So far I couldn't find out who this woman is who presented all of this. I tried to find out more information about her and more video material. I think I find it simply fascinating. My second video tonight is from Ancient Architects, and it's called Proof of an Ancient Origin, the Foundations of the Pyramids of Egypt. This video makes the point that the Giza pyramids are built onto enormous square-cut bedrock cliffs. It may well prove that the pyramids of Egypt are in fact truly ancient, dating back 7,000 to 10,000 years. Enjoy this video.
Hello everybody, and welcome to Ancient Architects. Please subscribe now to get the latest ancient history news and independent research from around the world. I recently watched a fantastic video by Chuck on the CF Apps 7865 channel that highlighted the fact that the Giza pyramids are built onto enormous square-cut bedrock plinths. Google Earth footage of the Khafre pyramid shows that the base courses are not made up of blocks, but are actually step-cut limestone bedrock, which would have certainly given this pyramid a stable foundation for the work that was to come. Chuck highlights the paper, Geological and Geomorphological Study of the Original Hill at the Base of 4th Dynasty Egyptian Monuments, and on watching his video, I downloaded and read the paper. It confirms that the Tomb of Kenkaway and the Great Sphinx are both part of the same stratigraphic series, which consist of dipping beds of limestone of differing composition. The authors of the paper agree with Robert Schoch's assertion that the Sphinx was subjected to intensive seasonal rainfall as well as evaporation in temperate climatic conditions. And as per the observations in my previous video, they also agree that the pedestal section of the Kenkaway tomb was also subject to the same conditions, which to me confirms its pre-dynastic age. This is because the geological weathering has clearly rubbed out the decoration so evident on the southern side of the monument, and as well as wind, this erosion is certainly caused by rainfall. But for reasons unknown, the paper does try to conform to the mainstream Egyptological view that the rock formation was used to create the Sphinx and the Temple of Kenkaway in the 4th dynasty, and doesn't mention the weathered decoration on the Kenkaway monument, which proves a pre-dynastic age. It also makes the assumption that the head of the Sphinx is original and not recarved. I don't doubt that 4th dynasty Egyptians built on and worked these sites, but the evidence suggests it was more renovation than original creation. The evidence says that the Great Sphinx and the Tomb of Kenkaway were most certainly created before dynastic history. But what about the rest of the Giza Plateau? What did the authors of the paper tell us about the origins of the two largest Giza pyramids? Well, as Chuck points out in his video, the natural rock basement is clearly visible at the base of the pyramids where the casing stones are missing. The first 1 to 6 courses of stone are actually horizontal steps cut into the dipping bedrock. This is a fact accepted by all because in these sections there are no horizontal or vertical block breaks we would expect to see on the pyramids. The only breaks are the obvious natural fissures cutting through the bedrock like seen on the Kenkaway tomb. To me, finding out that the pyramids were built onto a bedrock base was quite an astonishing revelation, and I was surprised that I and so many others didn't know this fact already. You can even see the geologically dipping rock strata cutting across the lower steps of the Khafre pyramid. The natural bedrock base also isn't uniform beneath the pyramid of Khafre, and varies in height between 0.6 meters and 12 meters. Therefore, the pyramid was built onto a somewhat uneven rock base, but why? Did this give the pyramid extra stability, or was it important that the pyramids were connected to the earth for other reasons? It is a well-known fact that the Great Pyramid is built over a natural hill, but it is lesser known that this natural fractured limestone bedrock is exposed in the northeastern corner of the pyramid. In fact, there are 4 locations around the base of the Great Pyramid where the bedrock is exposed and used as part of the lower courses of the pyramid. It is clear that the builders took advantage of the topographic and geological configuration of the ground to build their monuments. Before anything was built at Giza, there were isolated outcrops of rock with abrupt slopes, an example of which we can see today on a large scale with the hill known as Gebel Gibli, something which I identified as the ancient Egyptian primordial mound in previous videos. The natural hill under the Great Pyramid was the perfect setting to build a pyramid to guarantee its stability. And it would of course also mean that the pyramid required less stone blocks if the natural hill was incorporated into the design. In comparison, the Khafre pyramid required more earthworks in its preparation and planning, with digging on the north and western sides, as well as filling at the southeastern part of the monument to allow building. But like the Great Pyramid, a large amount of bedrock was incorporated into the actual structure. The geographical term for the hill beneath the Great Pyramid is an Inselberg, an isolated rocky hill that rises abruptly from a flat plain. The actual size and shape of the Inselbergs beneath the Khafre and Khufu pyramids are unknown, and the diagrams we see are actually educated guesses. But they are conservative and they could be much larger. Here is a schematic view looking north, showing the possible volume of bedrock incorporated into the pyramids, which, in effect, cements them to the Giza Plateau. There is also an Inselberg beneath the so-called unfinished pyramid of Abu Rawash, and it makes up an estimated 44% of the total volume of the structure, which is much larger than the estimate for the 2 Giza pyramids, which are 11.5% for Khafre's pyramid and 23% for the Great Pyramid. The Sphinx, the Tomb of Kenkaway, the Pyramid of Khafre and the Great Pyramid all share a common architectural style, in that they were built from prominent bedrock features. This infers that the same people built all of these structures. But is the exposed bedrock that is incorporated into the pyramids weathered like the Sphinx and the Kenkaway tomb? Surely we would expect to see signs of rainfall erosion, not just on the bedrock levels, but also across the entire pyramid structure if it was truly ancient. This is where the true history of the Giza Plateau becomes debatable and contentious, because no, the bedrock cut steps of the Pyramid of Khafre and the bulk of the masonry do not appear to have been subjected to any level of rain erosion. But this could be countered by the fact that the pyramid was cased on completion, so it would have been protected from the elements. But to say that the pyramids are the same age as the Sphinx enclosure, which Robert Schoch dates to between 7 and 12,000 years old, we do need to present evidence. The burden of proof is on us. And before making this video, I struggled to find any physical evidence, and it is no coincidence that researcher Graham Hancock believes the Giza pyramids were created during the dynastic era, because the geological evidence certainly seems to imply this. Or does it? Before the first blocks of the Great Pyramid and the Khafre Pyramid were laid, the bedrock was prepared and dug out, leaving a natural hill or Inselberg to build on. This ensured a stable footing for what would be a huge monumental construction. As we have seen, the exposed bedrock that makes up the lower courses of the Khafre Pyramid are not terribly weathered, but as I have already mentioned, this could be because they were protected from the elements by casing stones. So what is left to analyse? How can we find that physical evidence? The Khafre Pyramid enclosure wall extends around the northern and western sides of the monument, and would certainly have been created to prepare the ground before the pyramid was built. The southernmost edge of the western enclosure wall is severely affected by erosion, but on first glance the rest of the wall isn't. It is relatively flat and relatively straight. Is this because the pyramid structure itself protected it from the elements? And does this therefore prove that the Khafre Pyramid isn't as old as I thought it was? On first inspection, there was no obvious evidence that the Khafre enclosure wall was covered over or cased in antiquity. So like the Sphinx enclosure wall, it was a fair assumption that it has always been exposed to the elements. It looks as though the pyramid would have protected it from any possible wind erosion, but this would certainly not have been the case with regards to precipitation. And on first glance, the Khafre enclosure wall shows no signs of erosion from rainwater. In this picture, we have the weathered Sphinx enclosure wall on the left and the Khafre Pyramid enclosure wall on the right, and as you can see, they are very different in appearance. But on closer inspection, I can see exactly why this is the case. The reason the Khafre enclosure wall is so straight and flat and lacking in wind and rain erosion is simply because the wall has been reworked. In fact, it looks as though it has been plastered over with a lime or clay-like substance, and you can see the original eroded bedrock underneath where the plaster-like substance has come off or eroded away. You can trace the underlying limestone bedrock northward, and it disappears as the clay gets thicker, as the pyramid has protected the clay from wind erosion, something it has failed to do at the western wall's southern end. Here, the clay has all gone. So what we see at the southern end of the western enclosure wall is the true original rock-cut perimeter wall of the Khafre Pyramid, and this image proves unequivocally that it was plastered over or lined with clay at a much later date. Now, things get really interesting. The perimeter wall was cut to prepare the ground for the building of the pyramid and is therefore a key part of the original construction project. This wall is very eroded and there is clearly thousands of years of wind and water erosion present. As we see the horizontal and vertical weathering features, we also see at the Sphinx and the Tomb of Kenkaway. And this all happened way before it was lined with clay and plastered over. Egyptologists can even get an idea of when the plastering took place, as scrawled onto the clay are ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs, written sometime in the dynastic era. Therefore, due to the deep weathering beneath the clay, work began on the Khafre Pyramid thousands of years before. The deep weathering that we see is not hundreds of years before the clay was added, it was thousands, and it was tidied up and renovated in the dynastic era, as was every other prominent Giza structure. I knew there was physical evidence that dates the causeway of the Khafre Pyramid to pre-dynastic times, as it forms the southern boundary of the clearly rain-eroded Sphinx enclosure. But this is the first time I have found physical evidence for a pre-dynastic Giza pyramid. As we continue to research more and more, we can hopefully get to the bottom of the mystery and once and for all create a true timeline of Egyptian history that is based on scientific fact and not just mere assumptions. As mentioned in my previous video, there are also a number of similarities between the Menkaure Pyramid and the Tomb of Kenkaway. And as the lower courses of the pyramid are cased with what I believe is the typical interconnecting fine stonework of the truly ancient pre-dynastic era of history, I believe this is yet more evidence for a pre-dynastic origin of the pyramids. With every video I make, with every subject that I research, I am more and more convinced that the Giza Plateau is far older than we are led to believe. Thank you very much for watching this episode of Ancient Architects. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel, please like the video, and please leave a comment below. Thank you very much.
I'm sure you enjoyed these videos. I would like to invite you now to follow me in my journey with the natural vision improvement. And again, let me know how you are doing with this, what you are experiencing, how you feel. I invite you just to give me your feedback. Last week, there was a question. Somebody asked why it is that he or she gets headaches when we do the visualization that I do with you. I thought about this question, and honestly I don't have a proper answer, because firstly I would need to see the person to find out if they do something wrong. I never have heard that anybody gets headaches with this. So my thinking is that the person who was writing in probably might be too tense and too nervous and too much trying to get it all right, to see all the things I'm talking about, and getting stressed out, and that then could lead to headaches. That's as far as I come with this question. I wouldn't know anything else. Okay, so let's get started today. What I want to do is to go through the exercise I was teaching you last week, because it's so important for you to get it right and to get the sequence right. And over a period of time you would realize how very helpful this exercise is, and what it does to your vision and to your eyes and to the health of your eyes as well. So let's get started. So first thing, get your hands warm, and then take your left hand, thumb and index finger, and grab your left eyebrow where it starts over the bridge of your nose, and squeeze your eyebrow to the other end 3 times. And you start again, and you start again. And you change over to the other side, and again thumb and index finger, and again 3 times. And then just pause for a moment and tune in and see how your eyebrow area feels right now. It might feel a bit tingly, it might feel a bit energized, whatever, just experience that. Now lift your eyebrows up and down, like I do. Just do this for a while. Might feel heavy, but rest assured it gets easier over time. Some people can even do one at a time, the Roger Moore effect. I can't, but a lot of people can. So if you can, try it right now. Okay, so after we've done our eyebrows, then we start with the eyes themselves. So have your eyes wide open, so as if to say, ah, look who's there. And keeping the eyes wide open, turn your head sideways. Catch all the light. Do this for a moment. Come back to the center. And now, again, move your head sideways and start blinking all the time. Very lightly, like a butterfly. Come back to the center, open your eyes, and now start squeezing, but squeezing not with your whole face, but with the eye area only. So let's do it together. Squeezing, open, squeezing, open, squeezing, open, squeezing, open, squeezing, open, squeezing, open, squeezing, open. And stop. And now a quick run through all the three things. So eyes wide open, blinking, and squeeze your eyes, open, squeezing, open, squeezing, open. All right, and now give it a good stretch and yawn if you can. Yawn loud. Oh. So to sum it all up, so we start massaging each eyebrow individually 3 times, then lifting the eyebrows up and down for a moment, for however long, it's up to you. And then having the eyes wide open and turning the head, do this for a moment, then turning your head again and start blinking for a moment, and squeezing the eyes, squeezing and open 7 times. After that, we do a quick one through all of it. So eyes wide open, blinking, and 3 times squeezing open. So if you have done it yourself during the week, let me know how you get on with it and what you were experiencing. I want you to continue doing these exercises, integrate it into your daily life, whenever it fits in, whenever you can do it, and for however long you want to do it. Today I introduce now a second exercise, and for this one we need your let me see. We need your nose. And I want you to imagine the infinity sign. If you don't know how it looks like, I've put it on here. I hope you can see it. That's the infinity sign. So what it involves is, don't start, I just want to explain it. So you have your eyes closed. You imagine at the tip of your nose a thick black marker. Then you imagine a white background. And with this thick black marker on the tip of your nose, you let your nose draw the infinity sign into the air. And all the time, I want you to do 10 infinity signs in one direction. And all the time, really try to imagine you're drawing in the color black. So let's do it all together. Sit comfortably in your chair. Close your eyes and imagine you have got this thick black marker at the tip of your nose and you have the white background. So now start drawing the infinity sign into the air with your nose. Try really to imagine you're drawing in the color black. 3 times. No, 10 times, sorry. 10 times. When you've done 10 times, don't open your eyes, but start drawing in the opposite direction. Again, 10 times. When you have finished, slowly open your eyes. And again, check out how your eyes feel right now. They might feel a bit tired. They might feel as if they have done some hard work. You might feel a bit of tension on the top. You might feel things are going on in your brain. And you might have noticed firstly that it is very difficult to imagine to draw this infinity sign in the color black, which is absolutely normal because the color black is the hardest thing for the brain to imagine. And in theory, the clearer and the longer you can see the color black, the better your vision gets. And secondly, you might have noticed that it's all right to do 10 infinity signs. You would have probably starting towards your left side. And then when I asked you to switch over to the other side, you might have found, oh, that's suddenly not so easy anymore. And it took you some time to get into the swing of things, which is perfectly normal as well, because when you start, you would automatically draw with your left brain, because that's how we are in our world we are living. We are usually very left brain, and the right brain is very underdeveloped, really. In some people it is, but in the majority, because our life is so stressful and so we have to do so much brain work. It's so intellectual, really. We use our left brain most. And now when you change over to the other side where it starts to get a bit difficult, that's the moment when we switch into the right brain. This is right brain activity. And what I always teach in my lessons is to work with the right brain. Right brain is vision, left brain is hearing. So whatever we do in switching on the right brain, we are automatically doing something good for our vision. And that goes for everybody, even for people who have no eyesight problems whatsoever. There's always room for improvement, and they would get a better understanding of the visual world. So I hope you have understood. If not, ask me, come into the chat, and I will see if I can help you further. So, which means now you have got one exercise that we did in the beginning, and you have the second one now with the infinity sign, and I want you to do both every time. The question is very interesting, why I'm using the infinity sign. That comes back to, firstly, the infinity sign is in our human history one of the most ancient signs, and it incorporates two worlds, the reality world and the world of the vision, the world of the ancestors. And secondly, in the kind of vision work that we are doing, what I explained is that we use left brain, and if we can incorporate right brain, that would further our vision, which would give us a better vision. So the infinity sign now is crossing over the left brain and then coming over into the right brain. So therefore it is so important. We will not get the same effect if I would have asked you to draw a circle. Circle would still be left brain. There would be no switch over into the right brain. If you have further questions, please ask me. Otherwise, continue doing these two exercises at home. And I want to give you a short story as well, a visualization. So sit comfortably in your chair. Remove your glasses, your contact lenses if you can. Yeah, there's another question, if they could use another symbol to draw. No, definitely no. It has to be the infinity sign. And I know that it is difficult. And It all comes down to practice. You would realize the more you practice this, the more you get the hang of it. It's the only sign that simultaneously works through the left brain and right brain. It's no other possibility, and it has to be round because this is what nature is. Any other geometrical sign is man-made. The infinity sign is not. So it has to be, stick with it, practice and try to get better and better, but it has to be the infinity sign for this exercise. But if there are no further questions, then sit back comfortably in your chair, get your hands warm, have your fingers crossed, put your crossed fingers over the bridge of your nose, have your eyes closed. Just be aware before we start what you can see when you look into the nothingness with your eyes closed and your hands in front of your eyes. If it's all black or if anything else is happening, if you can see some movement, some light, just be aware. Okay. So imagine now a blue sun in the center of the earth. Cobalt, ultramarine and indigo hues are emanating from the sun. The blue colors radiate up through the layers of the earth to your feet. This brilliant, strong light flows up through your feet into your legs. It is a colored river of energy that carries health, vitality and balance into your body and mind. The river moves up through your torso into your chest. Your lungs respond by filling totally with fresh oxygen and by exhaling every iota of old air. The blue flows into your shoulders. Here it is absorbed by your shoulder muscles, which expand from the inside. The blue river divides and flows into your arms. Feel the vibrant, calming energy in your muscles, veins and bones. The blue light streams into your hands. Here it pauses for a time, building up its energy, swirling in the center of your palms. Instinctively, you will know the right moment to release the blue energy into your eyes. A flood of magical light and joy pours into your eyes and brain. Let it soak into the bones of your face, into the tissues and cells of your eyes. It brings healing, vitality, and clarity to your whole visual system. Imagine the blue light flowing to the visual centers in the back of your head. The seeing cells of your visual brain awaken and buzz with color and aliveness. Finally, visualize the blue light expanding through and around the back of your head. Keeping your eyes closed, bring your palms away from your eyes slowly. Leave your eyes closed. Give a big stretch and a yawn. Put your magic feather on the end of your nose and begin tickling the room around you. And when you feel ready, slowly open your eyes. And then see how it feels when you look around in your environment. See how your eyes feel now, if they have recovered from the hard work they have been doing today, if they feel fresh, energized. Just become aware. So with this one, I want to finish for today. And I see you all again next week. Goodbye.
Humanity has been on an epic journey of discovery, learning the truth about the world we live in. New discoveries about the true origins of humanity, ancient history, free energy, as well as the systematic corruption of world governments are now on the forefront of our daily reality. Is the world headed towards destruction based on control and power? Or is an opportunity now being presented to shift and uplift into a higher consciousness? My name is Mel V, co-founder and creative director of Conscious Consumer Network, an independent broadcast network that was launched on the 1st of January 2015. In the last 3 years, Conscious Consumer Network has broadcast over 2,800 shows in multiple languages, featuring guests from across the world, whilst creating media that is aimed at the creation of a free, fair, peaceful, just, sustainable world. Conscious Consumer Network provides full training and an interactive support network for all broadcasters, and we are always looking for inspiring and educational content.
Hi, this is Lainey Liberty.
And this is Miro Siegel.
In 2018, Conscious Consumer Network has expanded to multiple broadcast locations, increasing our availability and reach across the world, remaining on the cutting edge of independent media. If we wish to create a better world, we must first create better media, geared towards real education instead of indoctrination.
You guys really are what changing the world is going to be about. It's educating kids at a grassroots level.
Having become a pillar of stability in the turbulent world of independent media, we have even more going on in 2018. Conscious Consumer Network is a publicly funded network, and we rely on all of you to keep us on the air. Show your support for independent media by donating to our 2018 Network Support Fund. Dare to seek a better world. Support independent media.